This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of June 27th, 2022. And this week's podcast is going to get a little technical, folks. But if you bear with me, I'll try to make it as easy as possible. We go back to the idea of standard definition television and high definition television on DIRECTV because we've been talking about this for a lot of years, actually since about 2016. That's when DIRECTV had first announced that they were going to be sunsetting their standard definition channels. Now, keep in mind, standard definition television was the state of the art until 2009, but hasn't been the state of the art since. So the original plan was for DIRECTV to be rid of their standard definition channels by 2019, 10 years later. That's a pretty decent little stretch. Well, here we are in 2022. And it's now 13 years since high definition television became kind of the rule of the land in the United States. And you still have DIRECTV broadcasting standard definition signals from its 101 satellite location. And the first thing you got to ask yourself is, who cares about this? Why is it important? Well, people do care about it. And there's a reason. Because in a lot of cases, you've got people who have standard definition only dishes. At least that's what we've been telling them, is that they're standard definition only dishes. And that has meant some confusion. You see, a lot of the folks who come to Solid Signal for help are folks in RVs and boats. Why? Because we do more mobile and marine activations than literally anybody else on the planet. We know what we're doing. But when it comes to these things, RVs and boats, a lot of times they'll put up a dish that is smaller and can only receive satellite broadcasts on one frequency set, right? One group of frequencies at a time, and can only look at one satellite location at a time. Why? Because for one thing, it's a little less expensive. And remember, these mobile and marine dishes go from between $5,000 and $30,000 each. And also, in the case of smaller boats and pretty much all RVs, there just isn't the ability to put up something that big. If you were to put a mobile dish on the top of your RV that was capable of getting all the satellite locations at once, it would need to be so big that you would have an issue fitting under certain overpasses. And you don't want to have to, change your entire schedule around just to drive out of your way to make sure that you're not going to knock the satellite dish off your roof, right? Well, of course not. So what we've been telling people has been, okay, at some point that standard definition program is going to go away. And we don't know what's going to happen with your dish. You may not get any programming at all. That's not a great thing to tell people. And believe me, it's not a sales aid. It's not helping people buy new mobile and marine satellite equipment. But at any rate, we've got some news, finally some news. And the folks at DIRECTV haven't really given us a big roadmap on this, but evidence is out there. The first thing you need to know is that a couple of years ago, they launched their DIRECTV 16 satellite, or it's also known as T16. And this satellite is very similar to the ones at the other DIRECTV satellite locations in that it's got a lot of capacity. It's got a lot of ability to carry frequencies, not just the one frequency that's normally been associated with that 101 satellite locations, but also the Ka band frequencies that have been used at the other satellite locations. And it's a big satellite, and it's got a lot of capacity. What does this mean? Well, let's talk for a second about the frequencies in use. Now, pretty much everybody else in the world of satellite TV is using a set of frequencies known as the Ku band. Now, the Ku band is a big chunk of frequencies, up around 18 gigahertz, but it's not infinite. And it wasn't enough for DIRECTV to promise that they could get all of the high definition locals that they needed in one set of frequencies from one set of satellites. And so about 15 years ago, they came up with the idea of licensing a second set of frequencies, which are up in the 26 to 40 gigahertz range, called the Ka band. And they use this band in two of their locations, but they've never really used it in the one central location. Why? Because they're trying to stay compatible with older equipment. They've always used only the Ku band in the one satellite location at 101 degrees. The new satellite is actually capable of doing both the Ku band and Ka band at that set of frequencies, but they're not using that Ka band capacity yet. The first thing that they're talking about doing is rolling out high definition channels on that 101 satellite. This is not the first time, by the way. For many years, the national channels, the ones that were used if you couldn't get locals in your area, were all on the 101 satellite, even the high definition ones. But that hasn't been true for a while. So just this past week or so, those intrepid volunteers at IamAnEdgecutter.com discovered that there are several high definition channels now broadcasting on the 101 satellite. Specifically, CNN, HGTV, Hallmark, MSNBC, and Fox News Channel. Now, I don't know why those are the ones. I got to say they're probably among the most popular channels that DIRECTV has, and there may be some contracts that require something like that. But now, if you have a mobile or marine dish that is only capable of getting a single satellite location, you can get these 4 channels in high definition if you have a high definition capable receiver. This is great news, and I fully expect to see a grand total of 30 or so high definition channels at this 101 satellite location. Nobody's told me it's going to happen, but I expect it to happen because of some of the contracts that need to be fulfilled over time. I expect it to happen. That's great news for our mobile and marine customers. Unfortunately, the other side of that is that a larger number of standard definition channels will probably also be sunsetting. And I suspect that what we're going to see is that they're going to try to sunset the ones that are less popular and try to keep as much as they possibly can. Because after all, why would you walk away from somebody who wants to give you money like a mobile or marine or business customer? Now, a lot of people have said to me, well, I didn't know the Ku band was even capable of doing high definition. Well, it's not really the band, you got to understand. It's not the idea of, just these frequencies being incapable of getting high definition. After all, Dish uses the Ku band exclusively, and they have high definition signals on it. It just takes them 2 different satellite locations for all of the channels that they need. It's not the number of frequencies that are the issue. The issue is to have the flexibility. You see, the 101 satellite location was home to some very, very old satellites. Old in the terms by technology is, up to 20 years old. And fitting these broadcasts, these high definition broadcasts on the way that these satellites were all set up was a challenge, big challenge. And it meant a very, very small number of channels were possible as far as getting, all of that out there. And so I think this new satellite is going to make it a lot easier to put more high definition back on that 101 satellite location. That's going to be a benefit for mobile and marines customers. And it's also going to be a benefit for customers who are prone to rain fade. Now, I don't talk too much about rain fade because for the most part, rain fade is a very, very minor issue for most satellite TV customers. Even those people who do have issues with it, it's very, very temporary as the rain comes and goes. But the Ku band itself is less sensitive to rain fade than the Ka band. And yet the high definition channels are all on the Ka band. By moving high definition channels to the Ku band at the 101 satellite location, it means that these channels will come in more and have, people will have an easier time getting them than they would have before. And again, that's all good. This is all great stuff, and it's all great news. As we move forward with DIRECTV, this is the kind of innovative thinking that is going to keep this company going for the next 25 years. You know, I think the folks at AT&T didn't have a lot of regard for the satellite side, and they were interested in a lot of the contracts and the streaming idea, and they never really cared whether or not people left satellite television. Well, the folks at DIRECTV, who are now much more independent from AT&T, do care. They do, and I think that you're going to continue to see improvements on the satellite side. And that is the end of kind of the story, is that you're seeing these changes being made to improve the experience for satellite customers. Fantastic. Great to hear. And if you're interested in hearing more, give the folks at Solid Signal a call at 888-233-7563, and they can explain a whole lot more about what's coming up in the future. Because this podcast is getting long, and it's time for me to sign off. Do me a favor, like and subscribe. Always makes me look good to my bosses. Keep listening, keep commenting, and I will see you next time on the Solid Signal Podcast.